All right, so the last few weeks I've been backtesting a lot, and I've changed my mind on a lot of things. And the title of the video is changing my mind on risk to reward, and that's from all the backtesting I've been doing. So what I've been finding a lot lately is that risk to reward is not as important as I used to think. So a lot of times, what I used to say all the time is I would want somebody who just started to have a 1 to 3 risk reward minimum, a 1 to 2 risk reward minimum, because I said that it would make it a lot easier for them to have success in the beginning. You know, if you're risking 1% to make 3%, you're risking $100 of your account to make 300. That takes a lot of pressure off of the brand new trader. It takes a lot of pressure off of anybody, right? And on a piece of paper, it looks like that for sure. But if you look at it from the opposite way and you start to look at the added pressure that it takes the pressure off of being super accurate, but then it also adds a lot of pressure on having these bigger trades that are able to hit those take profits, or adds the pressure of being able to find smaller stop loss trades. So instead of having a trade where instead of having a trade where you're like this, where it's going to be, you're going to have a trade like right here, and then you're going to have a bigger stop loss. You're going to have a 1-to-1. Instead of having something like that as a brand new beginner trader, or just as an experienced trader, you're going to try and make your stop loss smaller. You're going to try and go for a 1-to-3, a 1-to-4, a 1-to-5, right? And that's the trap that a lot of people get caught in, and the trap I got caught in is you see all these people talking about these big risk reward trades, and you start to realize, oh shit, well I can risk 1% and make 10%, and then you start having a minimum of a 1 to 10 risk reward like I used to, and that's the only thing that you'll take. And it's kind of ridiculous. It's a double-edged sword. The farther you go down a risk reward, the harder it is going to be to hit those trades, to be successful, everything. Now, the thing that you got to understand is that the farther you go, the farther your trades have to go. So with me, if I was going to do this, and I was going to say, okay, I'm going to take this trade. I'm going to have my stop loss right below the previous low, and I'm going to have my target right here at the previous high, okay? That's as far as my trade has to go for me to make money. Now, if you're going to take this guy over here and you're going to say, well, I'm going to take this trade and I'm going to have a smaller stop loss, but my take profit has to go all the way up here. Which one is more likely to get hit? This one or this one? It's always going to be the smaller one, right? Now, of course, there's going to be people saying, well, I'm not going to make as much money and I'm going to risk 1% to make 1%. Of course. But the win rate, you have to understand at the same time, the win rate is going to drop a lot when you have something like this. The win rate is going to go down very, very, very far when you have something like this, because it's not likely to hit big TPs every time. If somebody's going for 30 pips and then the other guy's going for 115 pips, the guy with the 30 pips TP is way more likely to get hit. And at the same time that these TPs are way less likely to get hit, their stop losses are more likely to get hit, because they're usually going to be in a more vulnerable place because they want to have these big risk rewards, so they're making their stop loss as small as they can, versus the guy with the bigger stop loss is less likely to get stopped out. Okay, so there's multiple things that go into this reasoning of why I'm starting to change it. And there's nothing wrong with a 1-to-1. There's nothing wrong with a 1 to 1.5, a 1 to 2. And I used to always hate on people who would do this and say they suck and this, and this, and they're not going to be profitable. The thing is that these stop losses are more vulnerable. TPs take longer to get hit. The accuracy goes down. The win rate goes down because these TPs are so big. Okay, that's a problem. Versus you have whatever entry you have a TP that's reasonable, a stop loss that's reasonable. Your stop loss should be in a place to where if you get stopped out, it's because you were wrong about the direction of price. It's not because it was too close to where it just tapped you out and then went the direction where you thought, which used to happen to me all the time. It should be in a place where, oh, I got stopped out. Oh, well, price is actually going in the complete opposite direction of where I thought it was going to go. That should be the only reason that you lose trades. Okay. So that's my reasoning behind this. And if we go up here and we look at these trades, you can see, first of all, I'm using buy limits. I'm using limits on all of these. So it makes a difference. And I'll show you why I use limits. So right here, if I was going to use a buy limit, right, I would have my buy limit right here. I'd have my target right here. And then I would just have my stop loss match a 1-to-1. Or I could have it match a 1-to-2 or whatever I feel like doing. But if I have a candle confirmation, we take candle confirmation straight off of this buy, this big engulfing, what's going to happen is we're going to have our entry up here. If we want to have our stop loss in a reasonable spot, that's going to make our stop loss huge. It's not even going to be reasonable to take the trade. So that's why I'm comparing limits and candle confirmations in the way that I'm doing it, where the candle confirmation stop losses are going to be right below the candle or the wick, and the limit stop losses are going to be either below the low or going to be like this. Below this low would be stupid. That wouldn't even make any sense. So they're going to be either below the low or they're going to be just a reasonable distance away. So if you were to see this one, the buy limit made a lot more sense. Number one, like I've said before, you don't have to sit there and wait for candle confirmations. And number two, your entry is usually going to be a lot better and your stop loss is going to be a lot safer. So by entry being better, I mean their entry is going to be right here on the level, whereas it's not going to be way up here or here or here or here or whatever it is. And your stop loss is going to be safer, where right here, there's nothing telling you that price isn't going to come back down to the zone and reject it multiple more times. So your stop loss being right here, it's in a vulnerable spot. Versus this stop loss is not in a vulnerable place. Price comes all the way down here. I mean, it can come down here and hit this and go up, but most likely that's not going to happen, and price is going to just flip the overall direction of where it's going. And then right here, we see we have this entry right here. There's no way you would have entered this with a candle confirmation. Your entry would have been way up there. It wouldn't have made any sense at all. And our entry right here would be right on this level. Candle broke out. Entry is right here. Our stop loss would be right below the low. Perfect entry. Entry with this. Price broke out of this level. Stop loss below the low. And then the candle confirmation would have been like that. But now, see what I'm saying with these stop losses also. If I was going to enter right there, my stop loss would get stopped. Having a stop loss way below here, it doesn't even matter. Like, I know I'm not going to get stopped out. My stop loss being right below the low, I would have got stopped out. It's way down here. It doesn't even matter. Having it below the low if you're buying or above the high if you're selling is always going to be a safe place to have your entries. Now, it's the same thing right here. If I had it below the low, price would either wake me out right here or right here. Well, it would wake me out anyways with this one, but I still would have been able to get my money right there. Now we'll just continue and go down and see all of this. What about this one? We entered right here off of this whole level, and look what happened. Price played around and came all the way down and eventually would have hit our TP. With this one, you would have got stopped out. With this one, you entered right here, candle confirmations, whatever, came down and stopped you out and went exactly where you thought it would. I'm not getting stopped out on this one. And you can go and you can find a million examples of this type of stuff. You can just find all of it. If you go through and you find all these areas where you would have entered and you could have got stopped and all of these things would have happened, you could just go to any chart, any time frame, and you can see it. If you would have entered on a candle confirmation and had your stop loss right here, this would have came back down and stopped you. If you would have entered on a buy limit right here, stop loss right below the zone, this would have stopped you. But if you're going to go ahead and enter on the level and you're going to say, I want my TP right there, right? My TP is going to be at that. So what do I have to do to make it a 1-to-1? It has to be that. Doesn't have to be that extreme, but that can be around what you do, right? And then you have no real chance of getting stopped out. This level right here, if you would have entered on the level, price could have came down a little bit, stopped you out. But what if I enter right here and I say, well, this is my next GP. This is the next level, so I want to find a stop loss that's going to make it a 1-to-1. There's your entry. It's hard to get stopped out when you trade like this. It really is. This one right here. Okay, well, this is a level right here. So what if I enter right here? I have a TP right there. What do I have to do to make it a 1-to-1? It has to come all the way up here. Now we're good. Right? So having these big stop losses, again, like I said before, it puts you in a spot where you do not have to worry about being stopped out. It puts you in a spot as a beginner where you don't have to stress about losing these trades. You don't have to stress about finding smaller stop loss trades. Your win rate is going to skyrocket. This week, I called out, I think on the Telegram, I called out like 6 winning trades. On my personal trading, I called out, I think it was 10 or 11 wins with 2 losses. And I don't usually do that. I don't do that well, usually. But the reason is because of the stop losses. Over the back testing, I've been doing this for a while. From what I've seen, this is by far the easiest, most simplistic way to approach trading. Just have a bigger stop loss, lower your risk reward, take the pressure off of yourself of trying to find all of these big ass trades, these huge take profits, these super tiny stop losses, because it will result in you having a lower win rate. It will result in you having to take more trades, spend more time on the charts, versus you come on here and you find a nice 1-to-1, a nice 1-to-2 with your stop loss below or above the lower high, and that's it. And if you approach trading like that in a simplistic way and you do not try to have this, it'll make your life a lot easier. That's it, bro. It affects out.